Welcome back to Bay Sunday, everyone. Our next guest wants to build a better Oakland, but you can't do that unless you empower those that are about to take flight in the city, and in a city that is misunderstood many times. So she did something about it. She wanted to buoy young African-American boys and men in the city by collecting their oral history. Questions like, describe your neighborhood. What words describe you best? What would you change if you could? The end result, a very powerful message and a great resource. The book is called The Griots of Oakland, Voices from the African American Oral History Project. Pleased to welcome Executive Director of Stories from All, Angela Zusman, and Project Manager, Brendan Anderson. How are you?
Great,
Brendan?
thank you.
Yes, hello.
Great to have you guys on board.
Thanks.
Well, first, tell our audience, what is griots? What's that mean?
A griot is a word, it comes from West Africa, that describes a tribal storyteller. So the person who holds the tradition and the legacy of a family or a community.
And the idea behind this book, such a great idea. Where did that all come from?
I mean, really, I work for the African American Male Achievement Office in the Oakland School District, and we really wanted to uplift the stories and the beauty and brilliance of our young men. In Oakland, a lot of times, other people are telling the stories, and it's very narrow perspectives, and so we want to show the full 360 degrees of what it is to be a black man or boy in Oakland.
And Brendan, you're the one that kind of organized the group that went out, because it was peer on peer. It was young men interviewing young men and boys in the city. And you set up cameras with them and helped them with their interviewing technique, but they went out and asked all the questions, right?
Correct. So we brought in high school students. We went and recruited high school students across Oakland, and then took a year to train them on the methodology of oral history with the partnership with Story for All. And then we trained them on actually doing camera work and editing. And so they were able to really go out there. Again, the peer-to-peer was able to collect the stories in a way where the young men who were interviewed were able to be very honest with
real.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet. And Angela, I bet those that were collecting learned a little bit too, right?
They did, yeah. So there was 2 goals for the program. One of them was to create this really uplifting and transformative experience for the young group of men that went through this training. So boosting self-esteem, giving them some great career skills, many other benefits. And then for them to turn around and interface with their community in a totally different way. So yeah, they were blown away. They were blown away by how smart the kids were, you know. They were really inspired and filled with hope also about what a great place Oakland is. So there were a lot of really positive outcomes.
Talk about some of the questions, because they were deep and open-ended, excuse me. Stuff like, talk about your community. Your neighborhood is this. What would you change if you could? What surprised you out of all the questions, or what comes to mind?
There's a lot of surprises. I mean, when I was compiling all the different shares from the young men and, you know, doing the statistics, there were a couple of really surprising things. For example, we asked, do you plan to go to college? And so what percentage do you think would have said yes to that? I mean, we set up on street corners, we set up at football games, we set up in really random places. So from that random group, how many young men do you think would say, yes, I plan to go to college?
You know what? I don't know. I'll say 30%.
So it was 100%.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that really blew us away. You know, we really learned, all of us, even the African American young men from Oakland were pretty blown away.
Well, there was one question. Growing up in Oakland is what? And I think if you were over 13 or more, it was 83% hard.
Right.
Younger than 13, it was 79% good. So
Yeah.
something happens between those teenage years, from
Exactly.
13 on up,
Yeah,
I guess.
we'd like to see some follow-up on that. That was a really surprising, and actually it was a very sad statistic
Yeah.
to see that for the young men, what's it like being an African American man in Oakland is good. For the older guys, it's hard. You know, that's the first thing they said. So exactly, what happens to them in those ensuing years, we need to investigate.
Well, the book just came out this past weekend, right? And Brendan, talk about, the guys feel like rock stars, right? They were
Yes,
signing
yes.
books, the self-esteem, you could see it, and the parents just exuberant, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mayor Jean Quan, who also had a part in reviewing the book, she was getting the young men to sign her book. So we got pictures of young men, 8, 10 years old, signing books for the mayor. It was very powerful for them.
And will this become a teaching tool? This has got to be in the schools, I would think, right?
We'd like it to be in as many hands as possible, absolutely. So it's targeted to youth. We think educators would really gain a lot from it. You know, people who work with men of color. would really benefit from reading this book. So yeah, that's all the proceeds from this book go towards getting the book into more kids' hands, into more people's hands, and presentations at schools and so forth. So everyone who buys a book makes it possible for someone else to get a book.
I'll leave you with this last quote. Brian Reed said, "Do not feel ashamed that you're African American. Just be yourself." That's kind of just be yourself.
Yeah.
And I would also like to add too that Sean Kennedy and Jesse Childs were the program coordinators also, so they were very instrumental.
Very good. Got to go though. For more information about Stories for All, log on to storiesforall.org. That's storiesforall.org. Back next week. Have a great week, everybody.